Okay, good morning everybody. It is Sunday morning and I am up with these little munchkins by myself. Jamie and the girls are in Atlanta and the big kids that stay behind are upstairs in bed, and so I take this opportunity where there are not big ears listening in order to record a vlog, because sometimes when they're listening it feels a little weird. Now they all know I'm doing this and I think some of them are watching, and that's kind of what I'm doing it for, but I like to be able to get my thoughts together cohesively, and if I say anything that maybe I didn't want in there, I can kind of edit that out before they watch it. And this is probably going to be a series because I have a lot to say about it, and it's time to actually talk about this because it's the biggest reason that my marriage is in a total disaster mess. So the topic is abuse, and it's a very hard word to say, and it's a very hard word to admit that you've been exposed to, and embarrassing. I think extremely embarrassing, and I don't know where that shame comes from. Society, it has to be. And we're finally at a point in our family where we all kind of recognize what it is and what it's not. And Jamie starts tomorrow to go to a specialist in abuse counseling because he finally gets it. And it took me a long time to get it. And when I first said the words to him that these patterns of behavior are abusive, he flipped his shit. Matter of fact, that day he went to a lawyer. Like, what do I do? She's trying to steal my kids. She's trying to take me for everything. She's trying to pull this shit out of her ass that's not there. And so it's been months-long battle to get this recognized, because once you recognize it and you don't do anything about it, you know it's gone, it's dead. So before I go into all that, I want to start with my childhood, because abuse doesn't spring from nowhere. And you don't learn to accept it just out of nowhere, especially me. I mean, most people that know me, and I guess whoever's watching my blog knows me, I am a hard-headed, pain in the ass, stubborn, go for it, strong woman. I am. I've accomplished a lot in my life. I've done a lot. I don't let a whole lot stop me from doing the things I want to do, but you have to understand that's not freedom if you're doing it in a cage, and that's what I've done. I've been allowed to do certain things and not allowed to do certain things, and it's not been a situation where it's been forceful. It's been very covert. He just opened the chair for me, and because it was so much milder than what I went through growing up, it escaped my attention. It went right under the radar until one night when I really saw it. So I'm gonna go into all this. I haven't spoke to my mom for real in about 3 years now, and there's been several periods during my adulthood that I've kind of cut off contact. God, this is one is hard. When I was growing up, a lot of it I don't remember, and I know that my mother would like to talk to me and kind of talk me out of the experiences I have, but they're very fresh in my mind, and each time I have a conflict with one of my children, it just comes right back because I don't act the way she does. My children will backtalk me and sass me and be ugly, and my first thought is, what's going on with you? Are you okay? Why'd you speak to me like that? Are you angry? Are you tired? Is there something you need to say to me? Now, when I did that with my mom, smack across the face, and I remember one time I had said something to her she didn't like, and she refused to drive me to work so that I would lose my job, and I had to walk like, I don't know, 3-4 miles to work just to not lose my job. And she was okay with that. And there was all these punishments all the time for very minor things. And one day I could crack a joke, because I've always been a smart ass. That's just my nature. And my mom would laugh around her friends. Oh, she's so cute. Look how funny my daughter is. Next day I'd get it right across the face for saying the exact same thing. It was a crazy environment, and I learned tools. Looking back, obviously in the moment you're not thinking, well, I'm learning to cope because I'm doing this. My mom would go on big rampaging fits about things about the house. Now, sometimes our house was absolutely disgusting and she didn't care, and sometimes she'd completely freak out, and we knew it's time to get busy and clean. It's funny because I do that now. I'll be like, why is the house so messy? And my kids will be, oh, we gotta hurry. And I'm like, guys, seriously. But there's none of this. You have abused me by not cleaning the house. I don't take it really personally most of the time. I'm not going to say I never do, but they just don't. My children don't experience the ridicule and condemnation that I did. Now, in my house growing up, there was a lot of giving of things and then the threat of taking them away. Okay, stop. My mother owned all of our vehicles. Even when I got When I was 15, I got in a car accident with a drunk driver. I got a settlement. I got to buy my first car with that settlement. My mother told me her name needed to be on it because the insurance would be cheaper. And anytime I did anything she didn't like, I'll take your car away. I'll take your car away. I'll take your car away. The punishment didn't fit the crime, you know what I mean? With my children, when they don't do their chores, they just lose their electronic privileges until they catch up with their chores, and then it's done with. There's no need to be so angry and bitter and taking things from them, unless that thing is what's causing them to not do the right thing. We always had people living with us. She'd always take them in and be this hero, and then start the same patterns. I'll kick you out if you don't do what I want to do. It's a wreck. It was always a train wreck, and it never occurred to me until I had my own children that wasn't quite normal. And it never, oh God, I'll go into that in a little bit. So there was all these things going on, and my friends would be kind of like, oh, I don't know, you know what I mean? And she'd be on her best behavior in the beginning of any friendship, and then she would let her true color shine through. One time, I was babysitting my little brother a lot. Like, I had him a lot. My sister did too. And I cannot recall, there was something wrong with him. Either my brain says there was something wrong with his foot or something, or he was sick, and I was babysitting him and he wanted to go play. And I was very motherly. I'm like, I don't really think he should go play. And he's calling my mom at work. She's like, just let him go play. I'm like, but he's sick and I'm supposed to be watching him. And she was angry with me, but it was over with. And that was a day my cousin from Orlando was coming to stay with my grandmother for the week. And he just completely pulled out my earring. This is life with kids. And so this was early in the day. And then that evening, my mother came and got me from my grandmother's house where I was supposed to be staying the night with my cousin. And she brought me home because I was being punished for back-talking her. She pushed me in my room and beat me so hard that I had welts all over my body. And I don't know what, there had to be something that happened in between our interaction of just back-talking. And I shouldn't have. No kid should be back-talking their parents, but we do. And you need to train them out of the house. Oh, this is so fun trying to do this with two wiggly babies on me. Corbin's like knocking things out of my hands and, hey, hi. Hi. He sees himself. Yeah, he likes you. Anyway, so there had to be something in between when I had an interaction with my mom. I don't know what made her so enraged. And what bothers me is she showed a couple of her friends. See what I did? She shouldn't have back-talked me. And I don't know, I don't know why those people never stood up to her and said, you don't beat your child with those welts and bruises on their body. And she always told us, well, if you call, anybody or you tell anybody, I'll give you something to, call about. Just really, really ugly. And I was afraid of my mom. Period. The end. I was afraid of her. I did everything I could to get the hell out of there. And he's gonna get mad. Look, he's like, Mom, no, I'm not comfortable in this position. No, I'm not. Look, I'm gonna throw a fit. This is gonna be the longest vlog ever. So, when I was 8, my father died. He died very suddenly of a heart attack on the day I was supposed to go spend the weekend with him. I was just getting to know him again because my parents had a very ugly divorce. I don't remember a whole lot. I know there was a lot of fighting, and I know my dad drank a lot, and I was not allowed to see him. And through a weird twist of fate, my first grade teacher met him somewhere, somehow, and they got to talking. I think looking back, they met at AA. That was never confirmed. I was too little for any of that. But because she had a past and he had a past, and it just turned out that they had met somewhere, and she was talking about what age group she taught, and he said he had a daughter in that age group, and it turns out I was in her class. So she approached my mom and said, if I supervise these visits, if I'm with them, can she start seeing him again? And she actually got us to have visitation again. So I would go, I think every other weekend. I don't remember because I was so little, but I don't have any bad memories of my dad. Now, my older siblings do because he was an alcoholic, and he wasn't a nice alcoholic. But by the time I was in his life, I do recall him drinking. I do recall him not having the best judgment, like how late he kept me out. But I don't recall any kind of abuse or any mistreatment from him whatsoever. I was treated like a little princess. And I enjoyed my time with him. And I had very sweet memories of my dad. Now, when he died, my mother was not at all discreet about how she felt about it. She was extremely ugly and would say, I'm glad that bastard's dead, all sorts of things that a little child did not need to hear. I feel like as a mother, no matter what I felt about the father, if my child had very sweet memories of their parent and felt love, I would just shut the hell up. Unless they had seen patterns that wouldn't have been healthy for them to carry. But children need to know, they just need to know that their parents love them. It is so important, no matter what's going on. There is a security in knowing you're adored and loved and somebody cared for you. And I think that keeps you from looking for love in all the wrong places, because you know what it should look like. You know what I mean? So all growing up, anytime I offended her, she would tell me, you're a rotten, selfish little fucking bitch, just like your father was. And I mean, all the time. And then I would feel guilt because this man hurt her and now I'm doing it. I mean, there was just a complete mind fuck going on there. All the time growing up too, there was a lot of conflict between my sister and my mother. My sister got pregnant when she was 14. That day will forever be etched in my memory. My mother had left my sister with her boyfriend's, I guess, mom when we went on a trip, and my sister also had a, relationship with her father that wasn't fulfilling. She just did what girls do. You look for love, and when you're dating an 18-year-old boy, what do you think's going to happen, And I know he was a sweet boy. I remember I was homesick that day, and he is sitting on the couch, and he looks like he is just terrified. And I know my mom was in there, sitting there talking to my sister, and my mom's first reaction was to freak out, rage. You're a tramp, you're a slut, you're this, you're that. And then she calmed down, but there's a lot of stories about my sister being promiscuous and whatnot. I don't think that was happening at this age. And my mom said she had chlamydia or something. I really don't know what that story was, but I do know that my sister was told if she didn't have an abortion, my mother was going to press charges against the boyfriend. And so my sister did that and was not okay from then on. She had a lot of boyfriends in and out and a lot of emotional problems, and she ended up being addicted to heroin by the time in my adulthood, and she lost her children. She does have one now, and she's changed a whole lot, and she's doing really good. I'm proud of her. She went through a whole lot to get to where she is, and I'm really proud of her, because nobody should have to endure what she did. And I know she was a good mom, but she was just lost. She was so lost, and you couldn't get to her, you couldn't tell her. And we fought so hard for her to see that she was, really, really in bad shape. And we ended up having to get authorities involved, and they took the girls, and she had 3 at the time. And the oldest lived with my mom, and the 2 went to foster care. And I had those girls for 7 months. And a month after Matthew died, they left because the placement broke down. They didn't tell me what I was getting into. The littlest I got really attached to, and that's a whole nother long story, but I'll just say I had them as foster children with the intention of adopting them, and it didn't work in our family because of the emotional issues the older one had. I couldn't deal with them, and not like I don't want to deal with them. I didn't have the skill set, and our family dynamic was always going to make her feel inferior. You could just see it because we already had kids, and she was always struggling for a place, and I knew it wasn't right, but I was so attached. It was so hard to let those girls go, and now I wonder kind of where they are and what they're doing. And I hope and I pray that at some point I will know, what's going on there. Now, I got out of my house when I was 18. I had graduated when I was 16, and I immediately went to work. I went to work in a real estate office, and that was a huge turning point. And I think that experience is what led my life to go in a completely different direction than my siblings, because right now, my oldest brother, he is in a long-term relationship finally, but he's a train wreck. He's been a train wreck. My younger brother, kind of the same thing. I think he's pretty happy with where his life is now, but it's not what I'd want for my kids. And my sister, unfortunately, is back living with my mother at 40 years old, or 43. So none of them ended up with the kind of life I did. And I'm secure, and I have a family, and I have children that aren't abused, and they're all here. So I did make my way out into the world. Now, when I had that job when I was 16, this woman actually had worked with my mother before, and she's the first adult that said, the way you're being treated is not cool. It's not right. it should have never happened to you. And it opened my eyes. I was like, wow, you know, I respect this woman. She's been through hell and back and made her way out. So that was like the moment for me. And I don't think that woman will ever understand. I've tried to tell her. She's on my Facebook page. I don't think she'll ever understand how much that impacted me, and not only me, but the lives of 9 other people here, just by being that person for me, just by being willing to say, no, that's not right, and here's what you can do about it. So I had this huge blessing, and so I worked for her for 2 years, and during that time I was a nanny too. I always worked really, really hard. I was a pretty driven person. And I was just making my way out. And then what I ended up doing is working for my mother, which was a total clusterfuck. But I ran papers at night. It was a really well-paying job, believe it or not. When I was 16, I was making like, I don't know, 400 or 500 a week doing that. And then the other, which is good when you're, you know, at home and you're, you know, still a kid. And so I would work midnight to about 5, 6 in the morning, and then I go home, go to sleep, get up for my 9 to 5 day job. And I had that through the week, and then on the weekends it felt free because I had the days free. It was nice. And I wanted to figure out a way to like support myself and get out of the house. I had, right after I graduated early, I had taken a college placement test, but my mom wouldn't let me go. She wouldn't like sign for my license. She just kept putting roadblock after roadblock. Hey buddy.
Gravity Falls is on.
Cool. You like that show? I'll have to pause this before it gets to 10 minutes. But so I made it into college. She wouldn't let me go. So let me get the job. And I still didn't have a car. She had to drive me, you know, back and forth. And she always thought, no, not take me. Thank you, buddy. What you got? And towards the end of that job, she was kind of happy that I was getting fed up, just because I felt like I was being underappreciated and all that. My mom kind of fed into that. So I ended up, when I left my home, I was in massage school during the day and I ran papers at night. And there was one night that I decided to leave.